Alrighty, hey gang. This is a day late, but I still wanted to put a little quick video together to say hi, talk about where we're at and where we're going. So I have some topics selections that I've got to grade, and I will soon, and brainstorming ideas assignment that I also have to grade. I just finished grading a whole bunch of stuff for my other two classes, so always trying to kind of get caught up. Always a little bit behind, but those grades will be coming real soon. So that's what we're working toward, culminating speech. You just worked on kind of main ideas, making the case like a lawyer, thinking about structure, thinking about support, thinking about arguments, right? Thinking about making a clear, compelling case driven by good facts and research and so on. And that's all important. And I want to encourage you to be looking at all the details in the chapter and be thinking about your organization, be thinking about your main ideas, how you're going to support those ideas, think about variety. All that stuff's important. Here's what I want to maybe stress coming out of the last speech, because I just finished grading the unbiased grading speech. And part of the worry that I had going into it was that a lot of the topics were extremely controversial, and I was worried about the unbiased part. And I feel like you guys did a really nice job of staying kind of in that neutral lane. It was sort of clear in some cases, like even if you didn't come across passionately, like you had a clear perspective and angle that you were working from, whereas you want to try to be covering the middle ground and being, equal sides and so on. But I thought overall the unbiased speech went well in terms of that unbiased kind of part of it. But here's what I want to stress moving into the final thing. And I made this is just coming out of like the majority of comments I made had something to do with connection. Okay, so here's where I'm coming from. I've taught public speaking many, many, many times, and I've seen a lot of speeches like live in public in front of me, And when I used to teach public speaking in the classroom, of course, we always had our grading evaluation rubric thing that we would be filling out, and students would submit an outline of their speech usually. And so you have the outline and you have the grading sheet where you're taking your notes. But I always made a point of, throughout the speech, at least a couple of times, of just looking around the audience just to see like what was actually happening, because I maintain the best way of knowing what's actually going on in a speech and the success or failure of that speech is just to look at the audience. And if they're paying attention, and if they're smiling, or if they have a kind of engaged, vibe about them, you can tell it really quickly. It's very easy to tell when an audience is leaning in, when they're listening, when they're reacting, right? Versus they're just kind of doodling, or they're feeling bored, or maybe it's a little awkward and weird and they're just kind of like squirming or whatever. You can take the temperature of the room pretty quickly just by looking around. And so that's usually like my measure of the success of a speech, is just how's it landing with the audience, right? So yes, you've planned, you've prepared and whatever, but like this is the real test. It's like stand-up comedy. Are you good? Are you funny? Well, get up on stage and do it, and you'll know pretty quickly, right? So that's sort of the brilliant thing about live performance is it's, the success or lack of success is just apparent. It's sort of there, right? Now, here we are in a class with no actual physical public or audience, and yet we're still working on the same skills, right? And yet we are asking you guys to just hit record and talk into a screen. So most of my comments from the last speech and some from the previous speech had to do with this idea of connecting with the audience. And I know it sounds goofy, but because this is a public speaking class, and because every skill that we're focusing on is are the skills that we need when we are actually standing in front of audiences. In my mind, I am reading or I'm viewing or I'm watching whatever your speeches as a potential audience member, and I'm trying to sort of like see what's working or what would work ideally in an actual public speaking situation, right? So here's my main, and I'm going to continue to sort of view things that way, because in my mind, we are getting ready to go deliver speeches in some kind of actual public setting, right? That means to me that you need to be thinking about audience always. Even if you can't see them, even if they're not physically there, you've got to try to be mindful of how they might be reacting. I think it's even harder to do what we're doing here because you can't see the reactions. You can't get the feedback. That's gold in terms of like, am I doing good? Am I not doing good? Right? So I am trying to help everyone to be thinking about ways of connecting with the audience. How do you do that? Well, in the last speech, a lot of you did this. I don't want to be biased, so I'm going to be dispassionate and sort of cold and mechanical. That means I'm not biased, right? But the problem there is, what about the connection with the audience? So if you're just kind of reading a dry, technical, unbiased report, you're going to lose your audience. So we always need to be thinking about, how can I be connecting with those people out there? Well, think about yourself as an audience member. What works? What engages you, right? It's probably not just a bunch of stats and reports and stuff you've pulled out of like an encyclopedia or, Wikipedia or whatever, and you're just kind of like recounting it. You want to try to engage us as humans. I kept saying this, like, I would love to see some human connection, some humanity, some expression coming through your face. Some, the gestures that you're using are actually, helping what it is you're trying to convey, and there's a sincerity and an earnestness, and you're really just trying to talk with these people, as opposed to, reading the lines on your screen. So again, I'm going to ask everyone, please don't be sitting down. Please don't be super close to your monitor. Don't be hovering over us. Think about your lighting. Think about your sound. And most importantly, think about those people out there who matter, who the only thing that really matters in terms of like, is this working? Okay, so I would encourage you to maybe, ask your roommates to sit on a couch and deliver the speech for them and see how they react. Get a few different people if you have family members or whatever. It's not as easy as, just writing up a script and reading it, but it's a better exercise in terms of like getting better at public speaking, which is what we're trying to do here. So that's where I'm coming from. I'm still really interested in that dynamic because public speaking is all kind of audience centric, and I feel like we're losing that kind of reality because it isn't an actual reality. But I still want us to be thinking about who's out there, how might they be receiving this information. And when you're thinking about how, that last assignment about main ideas and supporting ideas, yes, all that technical stuff does matter, but again, human connection, stories, anecdotes, genuine kind of humanity coming through, concern, humor, right? Try not to force it, try not to be phony or fake or mechanical, but let your voice, let your personality drive this and try to connect with us as human beings who are interested in what you might have to say. All right? So I think that's good for now. I hope everyone's well. We're almost there. Hang in there. Keep up the good work, and peace.